Nazar Viktorovsky volunteered for the front in the first days of the full-scale invasion. The man lost his legs after being wounded in Chasovyi Yar, but after rehabilitation, he started working for the Ternopil police. Here is his story. I remember that we were brought to abandoned dormitories. We settled in, and 4 days later, the plane arrived. I woke up in total darkness. My legs were squeezed by something. A few hours later, I stopped feeling them. But even then, I could not think that they would be cut off. Viktorivsky, a resident of Ternopil, recalls that day. He is 35 years old. Before the full-scale invasion, he worked as a train driver on the railroad in Ternopil. He liked his job. February 24, 2022 came as a shock to Nazar's family, as well as to millions of other Ukrainians. On February 28th, the man packed his things and went to the military registration and enlistment office with his cousin. They volunteered, but ended up in different brigades. Nazar says that his wife Natalia and 6-year-old daughter had a hard time accepting his decision to fight. They tried to talk me out of it, but I didn't hear them. It was good that my wife didn't cry, Nazar recalls. He adds that she cried only once, when she heard that he was wounded and had his legs amputated. Nazar says that since childhood, he has dreamed of joining the steel industry. That's what he calls working on the railroad. But he adds that he would never have thought that one day his legs would also be made of steel. For some reason, I liked trains and tracks. I used to play with toy railroads, and then after the 9th grade, I decided to enter a railway technical school. Then, I continued my studies at the Kharkiv Railway Academy and started working at the same time, Nazar says. The man says that for several months before the full-scale invasion, he often thought that a serious war was about to begin. However, February 24 came as a shock. I was with my family for 4 days, and on February 28, my cousin and I decided to go to the military commissariat. My family did not know where I was or what I was doing. I decided not to tell them. I told them when I had already passed a medical examination at the military commissariat and was found fit, adds the Ternopil resident. Vasil, the name of Nazar's brother, took part in battles and was injured several times. He served as a paratrooper with the 81st Separate Air Mobile Brigade. His right arm began to go numb from the contusions, and he felt very unwell. After the commission, he was assigned the 3rd group of disability. Now he is not serving, says Nazar Viktorovsky. He himself says that he understood well what the army was. In 2009 or 2010, Nazar served in the air defense. He was a senior operator of a radio station, sitting behind the radar and detecting enemy targets. However, he was drafted as an ordinary infantryman to the 24th Separate Mechanized Brigade. Nazar, along with other volunteers, trained for 2 months in the Lviv region. After that, the hard service began. In July of 2022, their unit was transferred to the town of Chasovyi Yar in Donetsk Oblast. On the 5th day, rockets hit the building where the unit was stationed. Nazar assumes that someone could have handed over their positions to the Russian military. In July of 2022, rockets hit a house in Chasovyi Yar where a man was staying. He recalls that many people managed to escape. I remember that I was on the 2nd floor. It was already evening, and then I felt an explosion. I lost consciousness from a strong impact. I came to in about 2 hours. It was dark everywhere, and I felt that my legs were crushed to the knees by concrete floors and stones. I didn't see my comrades, but I heard them screaming, Nazar recalls. The man did not see other wounded because it was pitch black. At that time, he wanted only one thing, to be found and pulled out as soon as possible, and he was very happy when he heard the rescuers. I remember praying loudly the whole time. When I was praying, I didn't feel any pain, and when I stopped, it came back. I also found 2 bottles of water in the dark, and at first, I poured it on myself so that I would not lose consciousness. But in the morning, I lost hope that they would dig me out quickly because the rescuers explained that it would not be that soon. The rubble had to be removed carefully, Nazar recalls. Eventually, 19 hours later, the man was pulled out of the rubble, but he could no longer feel his legs. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but it's an incredible feeling when you see the first rays of light after you've already buried yourself in your mind, he says. After the rescue operation, Nazar was immediately taken to the hospital. From there, the man called his wife and told her what had happened. The woman wanted to come to him, but he forbade her to and assured her that he would be transferred to Lviv, where they would meet. When they pulled me out and I couldn't stand on my legs, I didn't realize that they would have to be amputated. I spent a week in intensive care in Lviv hospital, and none of the doctors mentioned amputation. Just before the operation, a surgeon came to me and said that my legs should be cut off. I replied that if it was necessary, then cut them off, Nazar recalls. Natalia's wife recalls that on the Sunday of the tragedy, she received a call saying that Nazar was on a mission. His legs were buried in concrete, and they were trying to save them. I was shocked by this information. I couldn't find a place to sit, but then I started praying, calmed down, knew he was alive. I prayed the rosary all night and fell asleep. I woke up to another call, this time from Nazar. He sounded so hoarse and weak. I asked him how he was, if his legs hurt, and he told me that they didn't, because they were gone, Natalia recalls. The man underwent 7 surgeries. After the surgeries, he stayed in intensive care for a long time because of complications with his kidneys. The woman adds that she tried not to cry on the phone so that Nazar would not hear. She also did not show her emotions in front of her daughter, but cried at work, where her colleagues calmed her down and talked to her. I came to see him in Lviv and was very happy to see him. I was even happier when he could come home. We have a 1-room apartment, and I tried to make our life easier. I put all the things that my husband had to get himself downstairs: plates, cups, clothes. In the bathroom, I put a mirror lower so that he could shave and comb his hair himself. And so, basically, I will always serve and bring what he needs, says Natalia. She works as a speech therapist at a rehabilitation center where she works with children. She also has another job in her specialty at the rehabilitation center at Ternopil Municipal Hospital No. 1, where she works with people after strokes, head injuries, and with wounded soldiers to restore their speech. Therefore, she is well aware of how important the support of family members is. After his surgery 6 months ago, Nazar was sent to the Netherlands. At the expense of the Dutch side, I was fitted with high-quality and expensive prostheses. In Ukraine, I would hardly have been fitted with such prostheses, the man says. He admits that it took him a long time to get used to his new iron legs. Nazar says he doesn't hide the fact that he has prostheses, and he is not afraid of people staring or children pointing at his legs. Sometimes children on the street run up to me, so funny, and exclaim, "Mom, Mom, look at my uncle's iron legs." It always makes me smile. They are curious. For them, I am like a RoboCop, jokes Nazar Viktorovsky. Of the man's family, his 6-year-old daughter Victoria took the injury and prosthetics the easiest. I told her that I will have iron legs and I will be able to walk, and my daughter replied, "Finally, your feet will not be cold in winter." Nazar jokes and says that finally, after so many years, doctors have managed to cure him of chronic knee pain. I am not ashamed of it. I don't even wear pants. I try to walk in shorts. It's just more comfortable for me because pants are hard to put on, and sometimes I need to adjust my prostheses. To do this, you have to take off your pants, but in shorts I can quickly adjust them, and that's it, the man says. Viktorovsky says that his injury and amputation made him take a fresh look at his hometown. A year ago, the man could only get around in a wheelchair, and, as he admits, it was a nightmare. While in the city center, the Ternopil authorities have begun lowering curbs, installing handrails and ramps that meet the standards. The situation in the area where Nazar lives is deplorable. I'm now wearing prostheses, so I can step over the curb or hold onto the handrail, but before the prostheses, I used to ride in a wheelchair. It is very difficult for people with disabilities to move around. There are many pedestrian crossings where the curbs are high. Is it possible to make a smooth descent? Nazar Viktorovsky said, Nazar has been using a wheelchair for almost a year. The man and his family live in an apartment in the Druzhba residential neighborhood. He says that there are not only no lowered curbs there, but the sidewalk itself is covered with holes, which makes it difficult to cross even for an ordinary person. According to Nazar, local authorities should take this problem more seriously. After all, many of the soldiers who were injured have undergone rehabilitation and are already returning home. After returning from the front, he didn't even think about working. However, in March of 2024, his friend, who works in the Ternopil police, told him about a vacancy for a 911 line dispatcher. Nazar came for an interview at the new situation center of the police department, passed the training, and has been working for over a month. Nazar, along with other employees, receives calls about crimes or administrative violations from 2 regions, Ternopil and Kherson. The police dispatch line from Kherson was moved to Ternopil because of the heavy workload, as there is shelling in the area every day and people call every minute. According to Ternopil Police Chief Serhiy Zubinenko, The center currently employs 12 people with disabilities. 3 of them are men who volunteered and returned with various injuries. Nazar Viktorovsky, a volunteer, former soldier, and now a police officer, says he is happy to have found a job after being injured. He adds that he is grateful to God for being alive and that his daughter and wife. Along with Nazar, another soldier who also volunteered for the war and was seriously wounded in the Donetsk sector is also training at the center.